video is a really interesting and tricky one that I kind of don't even think is appropriate to put on my channel, but at the same time, I found it compelling, I found it interesting, and yes, it is still about TikTok, but it's about some different stuff within TikTok. This is a very specific and interesting story. Before we begin, though, a bit of a viewer discretion is advised moment here. We're gonna be talking about stuff that is very bad, and I'm gonna be trying to skirt around it because YouTube doesn't like it, but at the same time, you know, if you feel distressed or whatever when you're watching this, then just click off. Do you guys believe in the United States justice system? Okay. I personally do about 20% of the time. I think the burden of proof is a beautiful thing, but there is a lot of areas of gray and failures that have just consistently happened since the inception of America. But in all of its faults, I think that it's possible for someone who has done wrong to be rehabilitated into society and become a beacon, something positive, a pillar of a community maybe. I know a guy who went to jail for 10 years for robbing banks, and he's actually a pretty good dude. Kind of. Hopefully he doesn't rob me after seeing this. A situation on TikTok has recently garnered a lot of attention. A ton. I've seen it multiple times on my For You page. This is a story or situation about a bad person who did terrible things and over time, over a lot of time, became a better person and reintegrated into society and now posts on TikTok, and most people have no idea of this past. This is a very complex, difficult situation. I'm going to try to actually remain as unbiased and objective as I possibly can, and I'll let you guys do the thinking for me, okay? I'm just gonna try to be a conduit of beautiful information and my sweet Pete. We're tackling some tough topics today. Are you excited? You have a dark past. A dark past of just being so cute, it's not even funny. This is the first video that I saw about the whole situation. This is how I was introduced to this entire thing, and you can imagine that my reaction was probably like yours.
So there's this with 250,000 followers on here, and I just found out that they exist and they follow me. So that was surprising.
So this is what I saw, and I was like, okay, this is incredible. We got to do the research, and not incredible in a good way, but incredible in a, this is something that I've never experienced. This is a real life episode of Black Mirror that is just out there that now we're all a part of. What the fuck? This is not the only video about the guy. This is the first one that I saw. There is a ton of people speaking out about this currently on TikTok. I would like to reiterate, this is a very complex situation, trying to be as unbiased as I possibly can, but in my belief, there is nothing more precious than the safety of children. They are holy little creatures, and anyone who attempts to do wrong to them is invalidated as a human being, in my opinion, for the rest of their life. So that's a little bit of a primer on my beliefs, but we'll go through this. So who is this guy? This guy is named John Romano. His TikTok handle is John Seeking Peace. That is also his YouTube handle. He's an adult man with a disgusting and dark and troubling past. After seeing these TikToks talking about him, kind of secondhanding, you know, subtweeting him, I looked it up. I did some research. I found him and it clicked. I've seen this guy before. I've seen a couple TikToks. He's a guy that was attacked by a machete. An assailant attacked this man in an attempt to end him. He didn't die. He just had terrible injuries to his arms and legs. His fingers barely move and his wrists are mostly immobile. He made a bunch of TikToks about this. That's where I first saw him. So to me, this guy's a sympathetic character the first time I see him. John Romano. Guy got attacked by a machete. That's, you know, terrible. But when you learn the past, you may reconsider this. You could even call what happened to him an instance of karmic justice. And it is a question that he himself is asked a lot.
Was the sword attack an act of karma for the crime that I'd committed at 16? I get this a lot, but I believe that it was just a test to see if I truly turned my life around and could push forward being positive.
This man is 35 years old now, and when he was 16, he went to prison for doing one of the worst possible things a human being can do to another human being. When John was in high school at the age of 16, he had a bunch of issues, and one day in 2004, he brought a thing that you're not allowed to bring to schools to a school, and a teacher ended up wounded. No one passed away, fortunately, and everyone survived their injuries. But because of his actions, John was sentenced to 20 years in prison and charged with 3 counts of attempted murder, 6 counts of reckless endangerment, and 1 count of assault. And this, unfortunately, is a massive problem that pretty much just explicitly exists in the United States of America. And, you know, it fucks us all up. It's horrible. No one likes this. And the people that are actively involved in these instances are tremendously more fucked up than an average person can even imagine. At this point in John's life, he is not a victim. He's a perpetrator. He's a piece of shit. And like I said in the very beginning, he tried to cause harm to people in that type of environment. In my opinion, he is invalidated entirely as a human being and should be shipped into space, something like that. I really don't know. I'm very cut and dry with this kind of stuff, but from now on, I'll try to remain unbiased still. John ended up serving a 17-year sentence, and when he was released, he had spent more time of his life in prison than out of prison. What's wild is a little bit of perspective here. The man who attacked John with a sword was sentenced to 25 years in prison, which is fucking unbelievable. What drives anyone to do something like this, especially a young person at the age of 16? There's a lot of information that led up to his issues. There's an interview on YouTube between him and Ian Bick, a little fella that I've actually seen pop up quite a few times recently. Quite frankly, I watched the interview and it made my skin crawl. Something about me doesn't like this guy at all. Okay, back to being unbiased. John provides reasoning for all of this through his interview. He says he was abused when he was 5 to 7 years old, which is horrible. In other instances of this, some people describe their reasoning as them being bullied by people in their school. John wasn't bullied. He was always the bigger guy, and he was described as a gentle giant. What?
Some people just say that I have that kind of gentle giant feel about me where people might be afraid of me from a distance if they don't know me, but when they get to be up close, they realize nah, I'm a good guy.
Around the age of 14, John became incredibly depressed, he says, and began therapy at the age of 15, but he never fully opened up to his therapist. Instead, he just talked about superficial issues rather than digging deep into his core problems, which maybe could have averted the tragedy that he caused, but that's irrelevant because the tragedy was still caused. And here we have yet another failure with a young man's mental health. I don't know how to fix it myself personally, but John's therapist and psychiatrist thought he was doing better and told his mother as much, which is how he got access to a weapon. And because there was more trust in his mental well-being, the idea was brought up by one of his brothers to go hunting. And this whole time, he obviously never told anyone of his fucking evil intentions, so everyone just thought he was better until it was too late. He does clarify his intentions and say that he wasn't there to hurt anyone, murder anyone. He wanted himself to be hurt or murdered. S-word by cop, essentially. By the way, I'm sorry about having to censor everything so heavily. YouTube likes to take my videos down, and we've had trouble uploading this already, so it's had to be heavily monitored and censored, and it's fucking annoying. John let off several rounds in the area, and he said he aimed and made sure to not hurt anyone. He claims that he did this on purpose. He missed on purpose. It seems like the man just blamed it on anxiety and depression, which a lot of people have, by the way. He even said that he took an extra Xanax that morning to try to help manage his symptoms and prevent himself from doing it. He says that he could have gone other ways to stop himself by opening up to people and seeking help from his mom. I don't really know how that works exactly. It's hard to speak on that because that is not what happened. The dude is very emotional. The whole thing is so incredibly confusing. It's weird. It's weird. I want to know what you guys think about this whole story. That is his past. Now he is a man on TikTok that posts and actively profits off of this life that he's lived. That's right. This is a man that was evil and probably should have been eliminated from the gene pool at some point, that is now actively making money on social media platforms because of this life that he's lived. He's not just a normal guy. He's very special. His specialty is traumatizing people in school and then pretending to be the victim. And by the way, I do see both sides of the argument. There's people that are called SS word apologists, which I think it is an indescribably evil thing that this man did that, like I've mentioned multiple times, invalidates him from receiving any form of sympathy or empathy. But I do understand people seeing him as someone who's changed. I mean, his literal title is John Seeking Peace. He has 250,000 followers, and now all of his comments are disabled. Here are some of the comments. There are people who are way worse off than you, and the thought of essing up innocent people doesn't cross their mind. Glad you're taking accountability, and I'm happy that you're getting a second chance, but you should not be an influencer. If you are requested to be interviewed, share. But you are not an example and are not a good person to be wanting to influence others. I agree with that completely. Don't be an influencer. Do not profit off of this life that you lived. Please, for the love of God and all things holy. This is what John put on his TikTok bio recently after this huge backlash. I can never undo the pain that I have caused to people in my past, but I hoped I could be part of preventing others from experiencing that pain as well. I'm sorry to those I have hurt with my platform. Yeah, man. I can't even imagine. This is when people started really digging in on John. A feller named Your Favorite Guy, someone who's been very outspoken against Tall Knight, one of the channel favorites, is also very outspoken against John, and he accuses him of changing the facts. John says in that interview with Ian Bick that he never intended to shoot anyone, but in a note that he left, he talked about specifically targeting people, Mr. Crannell and Mr. Coosdale, principals at Columbia. So that's just not true then. That's just invalidated completely. And to be frank, looking back, changing the story makes sense if you're trying to become this holier-than-thou guy that has risen above this evil past and is now trying to profit or make money. Now, comments on Your Favorite Guy's video are pretty divided, which I can understand. There's a lot of people that feel deceived by John, but also people that feel he's truly changed. I can't believe I believed his story. What? Why is he on TikTok? People cannot accept that other people can change. Dude, that just like, okay, anyways, wasn't he 16 at the time? From his content, it seems like he's changed, in my opinion. So this is like what happens in cancel culture now, but this is the opposite. People get canceled for doing something stupid when they're 16, right? Or 17 or 18 or whatever, and they're just like, oh, okay, you're invalidated for the rest of your life over something that probably you shouldn't be invalidated for. This is something that it's perfectly reasonable to be completely invalidated for. But I'm unbiased though, so what do I know? So it's interesting. It's a lot of people who don't think he needs a platform and a lot of people that welcome his interesting, unique perspective and people that think that something can be learned from him having lived this life. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? I'm really interested to see what you all think. There are a lot of people who find this to be a very positive thing that he's done. Thank you for the courage to talk about your most shameful actions which no longer define you, but who you are now. Gives us a lot of hope. I understand completely. But simultaneously, it's hard for me, in all honesty, to completely fall on one side of the fence. I don't believe at this point that the world is necessarily a worse place with having John in it, because he is objectively trying to do good things. Like his past is his past. Oh well. But at the same time, he was at one point someone who if they vanished from the gene pool, I would not bat an eye. If those were my kids, oh my God, dude. Cool, he's doing a good job. Maybe don't be an influencer. You see where I'm lying here? It's tough, dude. It's an interesting thing. It's none of it should be glorified. None of it. Not even what he's currently doing. You shouldn't be able to come back from this. It's important to also mention what John does off of camera. Okay, so I'm saying all this stuff about influencing. Off camera, he is a good guy. Genuinely. He does a lot for his community. In fact, when he was attacked, he was working at a homeless shelter. According to him. I mean, he has dabbled in deception before. But, you know, this is the story. A lot of the content that he's made is informing people on how they can help people who are homeless and assist with homeless shelters. He talks about how men's clothes are needed badly. I would encourage this as well. Any clothing that you don't need, donate. For sure. It's so easy to donate. Clothes just get old. If you have like a regular income, if you're fortunate enough to have a closet and it's full of shit, chances are high you don't need 40% of it, 50% of it, 60% of it. Once a year, I take a giant trash bag of clothes and I don't donate it myself. I give it to my mom and she donates it. I don't even know where to do that. But my mom, she's the one who incentivizes that kind of stuff. The thing that he really does is he advocates for mental health, and he talks about his history of mental illness, advocates for care, and helps to give people resources so they can get better when he couldn't. That's another one of those things that shouldn't be necessarily invalidated, but maybe it should come from a different person. I struggle with anxiety and depression. I have a terrible panic disorder that I've had since 2015 that has prevented me from living a normal life. Genuinely. I'm just a regular fella. I'm a man who struggled with mental health silently for a long time, and quite frankly, the best year of my life objectively has been the last 12 months. The last year of my life has been the least stressful and best that I've had, and it's because I've surrounded myself with beautiful people. For basically a year in 2015, every night I would have to wait until I was exhausted from panic, from my heart beating out of my chest, until my eyes would close, and then I would wake up 20, 30 times every single night, get 3 or 4 hours of sleep, wake up having a panic attack, try to live a normal life, drive, have to pull over every 30 minutes to just fucking breathe so I wouldn't pass out. Horrible anxiety, horrible panic. And I tell you what, not one single time did I ever think about harming another person. Not one single time. And I would assume that there's more people like me who have had terrible anxiety and depression who would be better role models than this guy. It's positive for sure, some of it, but it's like, you know. He also speaks at school safety conferences, which is another sort of weird area of gray. He's trying to prevent the things that he did from happening to others, but at the end of the day, the public has spoken. They're not huge fans of John Romano overall, which is completely fair and viable in my opinion. He's turned his comments off, and hopefully he's still learning. He's got a lot of learning to do in his life. There's no way he could feel like a victim, though. There's no way he could ever feel like a victim. That's one of the privileges that he's lost in his life, is being a victim. According to me. Unbiased, though. So John posted a meme of his attacker, which is interesting. Weird trend, to be honest, but John himself holds no rage for his sword attacker. He said he learns that that would do me no good. He also thinks that the attacker Randall deserves punishment for his actions, but also a chance at rehabilitation so he can have another shot at living life. I don't know about that, to be honest. I think that's just insane. I mean, what the fuck? Just a random guy with a machete? I don't give a fuck about that guy. What? I don't understand how that's the thing. Why are people just stabbing each other with fucking machetes? I don't know. Give each other hugs and, you know, stab each other with your wieners and stuff. Let me know what you guys think, though, down below. Do you think that John deserves to be forgiven? Do you think that John deserves to live a regular life like all of us? Probably. He deserves to maybe have a happy life at this point. Maybe, probably. It's not for me to say. Does he deserve to have a social media platform? Personally, I don't think so, dude. I don't think so, man. Ultimately, he's trying to make the best out of the situation. He's also making money off this. It's tough. It's complicated. It's really fucking complicated. This is like peak clout chasing here. Peak evil clout chasing. Anyways, let me know what you guys think down below. Thank you so much. I love you all. Bye-bye.